Hey guys, EST here, and as you can see by this beautiful setup, we're doing another experiment, and this one involves cooking, sort of. So I saw this on the internet, and I thought, I have to try this immediately. This is amazing. So I was looking up different ways to cook rice, or prepare to make it a little more interesting, or different rice dishes, from different countries, because if you got a whole bunch of it, just boring boiled rice is gonna get, very old very quick. And I thought, well, how do you make puffed rice? Is that just baked, or like, how do you do that? I found different recipes, and they were definitely elaborate and not very good for this channel, but then somebody said, oh, you can also just do it completely uncooked. Oh, we're gonna try that. Allegedly, in 20 seconds, this will be cooked puffed rice. Now, you need cooking oil to do this, but I've got some coconut oil, and this is unrefined, which means it has a shelf life of forever. In fact, in this container, you could probably still use this 100 years later, as long as you kept it out of sunlight, because it is clear. Now, the other thing that it's really good with is honey. Oh, honey has an eternal shelf life as well. So we've got one bear full of honey, of course, a standard unit of measure for honey. And just to review, okay, campfire with very, very difficult to regulate temperature. That's what this is simulating. We got some tough as nails cookware, and then we got some brown uncooked rice and some white uncooked rice. This, at least if you put it in, Mylar, you get 30 years on that for the shelf life if you keep it under 75 degrees Fahrenheit. And brown rice, it's a couple years. I think it's like 3 to 5. So not ideal, but they said in the recipe that that's the one that works better. So the perfect way to make puffed rice is you boil this, 9 or 10 minutes, you short it a little bit, then you dry it, then you cook it in hot oil. And apparently it will turn into puffed rice in something like 5 seconds, they said. But then a lot of other people said, well, if you just put it in uncooked and you like it really crispy, which I just like cooking it without water, you need water more than you need food. And if it's in short supply, the last thing you want to do is use it to cook some rice. Yeah, I get it. It's going to be in the rice. You could eat it and get a little bit of the water, but it really does take quite a bit of clean water to cook rice. When you get stuff hot, you destroy its calories. So 212 degree Fahrenheit or 100 Celsius boiling water and rice, I bet you some of that starch breaks down. Now here's the thing, the smoke point of unrefined coconut oil is so bad you should never use it for frying anything. So this could be a complete disaster, but you're supposed to use vegetable or canola oil. Canola is what you usually use to deep fry pretty much anything. I do have some, but it doesn't have the longest shelf life. There are ways to store it kind of long term, but it's not the easiest thing in the world. You could pressure can it, which is, interesting. I mean, this stuff is kind of like a paste at room temperature, so we're gonna try it. So, I mean, just to review, we've got 30-year shelf life, eternal shelf life, and fire. You can see why this was an attractive video idea. So let's go outside in the snow for safety and test this out.
All right, so we got this set up pretty self-explanatory. You can see the coconut oil melted down into liquid oil very quickly. And what you're supposed to do is stick a thermometer in there to make sure it's at just the right temperature. That's unrealistic in a survival scenario. And this is going to hit its smoke point and start to break down at about 350 degrees anyway. So I'm just going to watch for smoke and then pour some in and see what happens. And I've got some pretty crazy gloves on just for safety because hot oil is inherently dangerous, especially the way I have it propped up there. All right, we're trying the white rice first, the least likely to work, and we're just going to dump it in. And I did see a little smoke coming off of that, but you can see I poured in a little bit too much because it's not quite getting there, but we're getting that familiar deep frying look with the roiling bubbles. So I did eventually give it a little shake here. You can tell I'm kind of narrating this after the fact, by the way, just for audio reasons. With a 5 to 20 alleged second cook time, I thought, well, might as well try to keep it even. And I'm waiting for it to get just the faintest little bit brown because I did see what puffed rice is supposed to look like. Sometimes it's real nice and bleached white. Sometimes it's brown. But you can tell it's been a lot longer than 20 seconds here. I'm starting to get a little nervous. It doesn't look very puffed. I do take it off a couple times to check it. Which, placing that back down to those 3 little spikes, very dangerous. So if you have one of these, watch out. I've had this tip over outside while cooking other things. Luckily not oil. I tend to not deep fry stuff just for health reasons. But speaking of that, this is a lot of calories. It's also a lot of wasted oil. So, I mean, it's like if you have it cool, what else are you really going to use it for, though? Like popcorn, okay, cool, and it coats it pretty good because of the surface area. Let me just say, popcorn's a lot easier to make than this. It's still not brown. It's getting there a little bit. You can tell the color changed the slightest little bit, but it had to have been, a minute and a half around there? Man, so, okay, we're going to strain it, and I'm not going to taste test it until we get back inside. So I'm just going to, drain it on the paper towels on the plate and try the next one. So I topped off the oil with a little bit more because it looked absolutely terrible. You could see a little bit of that white smoke coming, so it's definitely at its smoke point. Let's try the brown rice. And what you're supposed to do is drop in a very small amount. Now look at that difference. Easily double to triple the size. So that's what puffed rice is supposed to look like. I got real excited there and I thought, well, you know what? Let's do it. And by the way, by the recipe, you were supposed to test it with a couple grains. I just didn't. So, went a little more conservative on the amount there, but look at that. Completely different result. And, that's that 5 to 10 second flash cook that they were talking about. That looks like something you'd get in an organic cereal box right there. So I was very happy with the performance of that one. Unfortunately, like I said, brown rice doesn't have a very long shelf life. I heard it's something to do with oil, but now I'm wondering if it has to do with a harder casing that locks more water inside because you need steam to puff most stuff like this. That's how popcorn works. So next up, I just decided to try the white rice again, but letting the oil get to a ridiculously high temperature. I left it on there for about triple the time. You can tell there's some serious white smoke coming off of that. Oh, and I went with a shorter cooking time too, but yeah, this was the result. Still not really puffed, but maybe it just looks like that. We'll find out in the taste test. Now that I know my camera wasn't going to be destroyed in a fiery grease explosion, I decided to change the angle here, get a little better shot for you. And we're going to try the brown rice, but a lot more of it and at a little bit lower temperature where it was definitely hot, but it wasn't smoking. And you can tell I didn't get it hot enough. So a thermometer would have been nice, but in addition to that, you'd have to remember what temperature it's supposed to get to. So I like my strategy of just watch for the white smoke. But I almost never cook anything with oil like this, so I don't own one, of course. Nor would I have one in a survival environment, and if I did, I can't really turn the fire up and down because, obviously I'd be cooking this on a campfire. So I sped this up because it was agonizingly slow, but man, I knew nothing good was going to come out of this. The ones that puffed first were over, the ones that didn't were puffing too slow. It was going to be all the wrong texture, and when you see the end result, that is way too over. I mean, spoiler alert, it's extremely overcooked to the point of maybe not being safe to eat. So I thought, well, why not just try a comparison with vegetable oil in case it is just the coconut oil that's the issue. I let it stay in the fire and heat up for about 5 to 10 times longer, and it just never hit the smoke point. I don't know if it's because of the increased volume. I mean, that's 3,500 degrees. I mean, that thing, it'll boil water at double the speed of my stove. I don't think the heat source was the issue, so, I don't know, I dropped a couple samples in there and then dumped the whole thing in and, well, pretty much got the same result. It wasn't great. We got a couple little kind of puffy-ish ones, but it just never really got there. So not very brown, not very puffed, doesn't look very well done, but you never know till you eat it. So as a fun little bonus, sushi rice. I mean, it's got a different starch content, slightly different shape. Seems like it has a harder shell, so I thought maybe this might be a thing. I have no idea what the shelf life of sushi rice is, but well, I threw a couple in there as a sample, and they did that. Oh, any second now. There it is. Look at that. Okay, so a little bit of puffing action, it would appear, or, well, they did something, so I dumped a whole bunch in. Probably too much, and, well, this was the end result. Certainly not nearly as puffed as the demo ones. I don't know if the outside temperature has that big of a bearing on this either, because compared to outside and then relative to the heat of the oil, it's a couple percent. But I do wonder why I never got that vegetable oil to smoke out.
All right, the part I've been dreading, the taste test. Let's try the sushi rice because it's on top. That's uncooked rice. That is just uncooked rice. Oh. All right, we're just gonna move that one aside. Oh boy. All right, let's try the original shot at the rice here. Got a little mixed up, but okay. Okay, that's it's softer than uncooked. It's edible. It's got a crunch. And it definitely tastes a little bit like puffed rice, like Rice Krispies, without the sugar or the happiness. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Okay, so let's try the super high heat vegetable oil. I mean, it's got, like a lighter sound to it. Let's see. Oh boy, it is not puffed. I'm not even convinced this is fully cooked, and I left it in there for a while. Wow, way higher heat, different oil. Oh man. I'm not sure if this is going to make me too sick. So I'm not going to eat any more of that, but boy, it certainly almost worked. Let's go on to something that actually worked, although I did leave it in there too long. This was the brown rice, and it definitely puffed. This is a bit soggy. I didn't drain it correctly. It's definitely over, so we'll see how edible this is. Okay, way softer. Definitely tastes more burned. Oh, definitely got a crunch to it. Very unappealing. Okay, that's the winner for the most edible right now, but we've got the original coconut oil puffs right here from the brown rice. Let's try those out. All right. Oh, that's perfect. That is just soft, delicious, flavorless cereal right there. I'm telling you. Okay. So if you use brown rice and don't overcook it, it should work. Sushi rice doesn't work at all. And white rice, at least the brand that I have, and it's kind of old. Maybe it's a little drier than it would have been right out of the bag, but I'd almost say that about maybe some stuff that you stored yourself. It's hard to say. But yeah, this has got a lack of complex flavors, but you can tell it's carbs, it's oil, it's heavy, and it's edible. And it's very, very soft. So I think we might have a difference between short grain, medium grain, and long grain. I'm pretty sure I bought long grain white rice there, but the instant puffing up at the same temperature of the brown rice means I just don't think white rice will ever work. You're just going to have to pre-cook it, and then what's the point? I guess it's a way to somewhat palatably eat cooking oil instead of just drinking it straight up, because it has a ton of calories in it. But as for me, I think I'll stick to popcorn, which is why I actually own coconut oil, that and, infinite shelf life and high calories.
So if I were to summarize, I'd say generally this was a failure. I got it to work, but with the wrong ingredients. I did remake a quick batch of it, tried it with honey and a little bit of powdered sugar, and yeah, it was as good as they said online, but it only worked with brown rice. And brown rice has a very insufficient shelf life, no matter how you store it. Now, the way that it would decay, you would smell it. If it was bad, you would definitely smell it. So if you want to take a shot at it, I would still say don't do that, because just use white rice and just cook it with water, or store popcorn instead, because that has a pretty decent shelf life. And I've had 2-year-old popcorn kernels pop just fine in coconut oil. It was extremely stale popcorn, and I don't think it has very high calories, so there's that. You'd probably get more out of it grinding it into cornmeal, so even that wasn't great, but it was just something to be different, I guess. Someone said you could throw oatmeal into the hot oil and that does something. I can't imagine it would be anything good. I think it was the same website that said I could use white rice. So since that sounded horrible, I just decided not to do it. Now, the other thing that you didn't really see is this made a huge mess. It was very elaborate. It took forever. It was very dangerous. And then you get broken down, smoked out oil that you could have used for some kind of other caloric use, maybe. It seems like it would be pretty disgusting to just drink oil straight up, but in small amounts or something, or you dip something in it and just have a really nasty, greasy meal that gives you a ridiculous amount of calories. Okay. Probably a better use than any of this. And now my table, my cookware, my surface, all that is coated in oil, managed to drip everywhere. It just seems like a waste of time, heat, ingredients, oil, and it's very unsafe. So just generally, I would not recommend this at all. Like I said, just try to find any other use for your cooking oil that doesn't involve this, which destroys a lot of it. So thanks for watching. Watch for more crazy videos in the future, and I'll see you guys next time.